When Joe Biden is sworn in as the 46th president of the United States later today, he will be facing perhaps an unprecedented series of crises as he settles in. His new administration has to address a pandemic which has ravaged the United States, killing over 400,000 Americans and about 4,000 per day. COVID-19 has also left millions out of work, and an armed riot at the U.S. Capitol has raised fresh questions about how the 78-year-old president can begin to mend a nation so deeply divided. From Washington, D.C., our special correspondent John Cookson reports.
First stop when Joe Biden touched down in Washington last night was the reflecting pool near the Lincoln Memorial to remember the 400,000 Americans who lost their lives to COVID. Biden's life has been touched by family tragedy in the past.
To heal, we must remember. It's hard sometimes to remember, but that's how we heal. It's important to do that as a nation. That's why we're here today. Between sundown and dusk, let us shine the lights in the darkness along the sacred pool of reflection. Remember all whom we lost.
Earlier, leaving his home state of Delaware, he broke down with emotion as he paid tribute to his politician son, Beau Biden, who died from brain cancer in 2015. He adapted a quote by writer James Joyce.
Excuse the emotion, but when I die, Delaware will be written on my heart. And the hearts of all of us, all the Bidens. We love you all. You've been there for us in the good and the bad. You never walked away. And I am proud to be a son of Delaware. And I am even more proud to be standing here doing this from the Major Beau Biden facility. Ladies and gentlemen, I only have one regret. He's not here, because we should be introducing him as president.
Dealing with the COVID crisis has to be Biden's number one priority, along with turning the U.S. economy around.
Joe Biden certainly has his work cut out for him. That is a gross understatement. He is probably facing the combination of 1861 and 1933, Lincoln facing secession of states from the Union and an impending civil war, and Franklin Roosevelt facing economic collapse of a worldwide depression.
And so the scene is set for one of the most extraordinary inaugurations in modern times, certainly one for the history books. When Joe Biden was on the campaign trail, he told the American people he was the right person at the right time. Now, with America in COVID crisis and political tensions at an all-time high, he now surely faces the biggest test of all. John Cookson, Arise News, Washington.
Joining us now for an update on this story, in addition to a breakdown of all related matters, is Laurie Laird, Arise Special Correspondent on U.S. Affairs. Welcome, Laurie. Good morning. Good to have you on the morning show.
Good morning.
Well, very quickly, great speeches yesterday by President-elect Joe Biden in Delaware and also at the Lincoln Memorial. His attachment to his home state of Delaware, his city of Delaware, and then also, of course, the Lincoln Memorial, where he signposted with the symbolism of healing, of remembering, and COVID-19 and all the people that died. For you, how significant is that, accentuation of the point about COVID-19 and the people that died, and that powerful song, Amazing Grace, that was delivered by the Michigan nurse?
Well, certainly it shows us, I think, what Joe Biden regards as his top priority is finding a way to get America to a better path of caring for its ill, for step one, preventing this widespread transmission of COVID. America's numbers have been very, very unimpressive, not what you would expect to see for a country that considers itself a world leader in healthcare. And before Joe Biden spoke yesterday, we learned that America had suffered its 400,000 death from COVID. Numbers in many states are continuing to increase. Public health experts continue to be concerned about critical care capacity in many states. In some states, we're starting to see the level of infection level off, but certainly most public health experts think that there is a long way to go. And I think the fact that Joe Biden chose to begin the inauguration process with remembering the victims of COVID shows you how the importance on which he places COVID should be the top issue in his inbox. And in fact, many would argue that had COVID not taken such a toll on American life, and I mean from a public health standpoint and also from an economic standpoint, had COVID not hit America so severely, it may not have put Joe Biden into the White House. But there's certainly voters told pollsters when they left the polls in November that COVID was the biggest, their biggest concern when they were deciding for whom to vote.
Now, Laurie, in the wake of the upcoming of the inauguration, we have seen Trump grant clemency to his former advisor, who was pretty much accused of fraud, as well as to 143 individuals. How has this been responded to generally in America?
I think that one thing I think we need to look at in terms of reaction to pardons, I think we need to look at who Donald Trump didn't pardon rather than who he did pardon. And I think often looking at these pardons, it certainly is people who closely follow politics that get caught up in this. I'm not sure that rank and file voters outside of the Washington, D.C. area, outside of journalistic communities, follow this all that closely. But certainly pardons have been controversial since the beginning of time. Barack Obama was certainly issued some pardons that many people raised eyebrows at. He pardoned Chelsea Manning, who was a contractor for the Defense Intelligence Agencies, who was connected with passing information to Julian Assange, who leaked all sorts of information through his WikiLeaks website. So pardons are as controversial as the Constitution has been around. But you'll remember that there was so very much speculation that Donald Trump might preemptively pardon himself. He might preemptively pardon his adult children. And there was lots of talk about whether that was even legal. So the fact that Donald Trump, who certainly is capable of audacious moves, the fact that he did not pardon himself or his children is very interesting. So yes, Steve Bannon, a very close advisor to Donald Trump, arguably the architect of his successful 2016 campaign. He was pardoned. He was pardoned for, he had been convicted of funneling private donations toward the building of the wall. So he wasn't convicted of things that were directly connected to Donald Trump's campaign, Donald Trump's 2016 election. Nonetheless, he was yet another close associate or former close associate of Donald Trump who was convicted of crimes that were either peripherally or directly linked to his boss. But I think it is significant that Donald Trump did not pardon himself or his children. Legal scholars hadn't even decided on whether that would be in keeping with the Constitution or not. But Donald Trump did stray away from that.
All right, Laurie, I'm just being cheeky now. You said legal scholars haven't decided that. With the rate at which Professor Alan Dershowitz is going, I'm sure he's going to say it's constitutionally right to pardon himself because he supports Trump on everything, and I don't know why. I mean, just moving on. Anyway, I was just being cheeky there. I want to talk a little bit about ceremonies. Trump is saying he wants a big ceremony as it goes, the military-esque ceremony, the pomp, the pedantry, the band and everything. And he's issued out invitations for that, but nobody seems to want to come to Trump's little party before he leaves. Can you talk to me about that?
We know what it's certainly been widely reported what Trump would like to see for his going away party. He will be flying out of Joint Base Andrews at 1 o'clock GMT today, and he is looking for some sort of ceremony. And now, from the reporting on this, we understand he wants the full works. He wants a red carpet. He wants a 21-gun salute. He wants a guard of honor. What we don't know is whether these things have actually been scheduled. A lot of that, pomp and ceremony bit of American political life is going to be busy later today, for the inauguration of the new president rather than the departure of the outgoing president. So whether these things on Donald Trump's wish list will materialize is an open question. Now, you spoke a little bit about the guest list, and this has been the source of a bit of smirking, at least amongst Democrats behind the scenes. Donald Trump has issued a large number of invitations, and we understand that each invitee was asked to bring 5 guests. Now, that's unheard of in Washington, D.C. circles. A lot of these events, right? Yeah, you're right to laugh. A lot of these events are really difficult to get into. Saying, sure, bring 5 of your mates is, highly unusual. We understand that some invitations have gone out to peripheral figures. Anthony Scaramucci, who was for 10 very short days, Donald Trump's press secretary, was fired very, very quickly. He says he got an invitation and conceded that he wasn't particularly close to Donald Trump when he left the White House. So not clear how many people who received invitations will go and whether they'll be able to round up 5 guests. Mike Pence, the vice president, who has said, who was hewing very close to the president until recently, he has said he'd like to go, but he's going to be busy ahead of the inauguration that's taking place 5 hours later, so he will not be on hand. So difficult to imagine who will be there, but I think in an odd kind of way, we're all kind of looking forward to seeing that ceremony.
Well, Laurie, we'll be taking a break in another 2 minutes or thereabouts. But before we take that break, I'd like you to help us speak to President Trump's video farewell message yesterday, in which he said, we came to do what we had to do, and we do so much more. Did he do so much more? What exactly, in your estimation, has he been able to do in 4 years? What is his legacy? And then, of course, he says he wishes incoming President Biden lots of luck and best wishes. Well, if you can just comment on that, and then we take the break and we come back to it. You have more time.
Certainly. I mean, I think Donald Trump certainly accomplished may be an interesting word, but you're absolutely right. He said we accomplished what we set out to do and then some. Now, if Donald Trump, when Donald Trump was running for office, he did more or less say he was going to be a disruptive candidate. If that's what he came to do, well, yes, I think we can consider that to be a storming success. Politics, as usual, was disrupted, and Donald Trump's fervent supporters, I think, will remember him for that. That for his supporters, that will be his legacy. I think the next question is, how disrupted are things? Donald Trump did not necessarily, he was not the disruptor, the initial disruptor. He took advantage of schisms in American society. Whether these gaps still remain or whether Joe Biden can mend these rifts, that is very much an open question.
Well, Laurie, at this point, let's take that quick commercial break, and then we'll come back and you can talk more about Trump's legacy. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us is Arise Special Correspondent on U.S. Affairs, Laurie Laird. Laurie Laird, you were talking about Trump's legacy and Biden's likely priorities. Over to you.
Well, certainly Trump's legacy, I think we may be too close to the end of the Trump presidency. In fact, we're not even at the end. We have still a couple of hours to go. I think that we may be too close to events right now to really discern his legacy. For many people, the legacy will be the most recent images, and those are the images that we saw on the 6th of January, that storming of the Capitol. Many people believe that Donald Trump incited his supporters to go ahead and storm the Capitol. In fact, he was impeached for incitement, for encouraging his supporters to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue and take back the Capitol. So I think that, and those images were so very disturbing, so very shocking. People storming what is this iconic view, this iconic image of democracy, that will stay with people for a very long time. I think whether you're a supporter of Donald Trump or an opponent of Donald Trump. But the reason those images will stay with us is because they're recent and they were so very dramatic. But I think it'll be some time before we completely untangle what the president's legacy is. And we spoke earlier about Donald Trump as a disruptor. What drew people to Donald Trump was his ability to present himself as an outsider. Now, Donald Trump was raised in an elite area in New York. He grew up in an affluent household. His father was a property developer, so he wasn't an outsider in that sense in any way, but that's irrelevant to his supporters because he managed to convince them that he was an outsider, that he was going to shake Washington up, and indeed he did. He introduced a whole different discourse into politics. His dialogue, his way of dealing with his opponents was disruptive. It was different. It did have the hallmarks of an outsider. Whether that sticks around is a big question. Whether the disaffected cohort of American voters that Donald Trump managed to touch, how do those voters go forward? Will they still be looking for someone to lead them based upon grievances? Or is there a way that politicians, Joe Biden and others, can make progress toward uniting Americans behind what we regard as the two-party system? Yes, the two-party system is still in existence in the U.S., but it doesn't look like what it did 50 years ago. The Republican Party united under Trump, but that doesn't mean that the Republican Party is ideologically sound, is dogmatically consistent, and the same is true with the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, which Joe Biden leads, is a very big tent, and it came together simply to defeat Donald Trump. But there are a lot of different ways that Democrats think that the economy, that the country should be run going forward. So this disaffectation, this disruption that Donald Trump brought to politics, I think that will be at least one part of his legacy. And it's too early to say whether this disruption will continue, whether it will be taken up by another Trump-like candidate, another Trump-like politician.
Laurie, I think you mentioned a very important point there, which would be unifying America again. I think a lot of people would agree that right now the mood is a bit divisive. And how much of that, let's talk about the realities of that as a responsibility for the incoming dispensation. How easy is that going to be for Biden's administration to achieve?
It will be an incredible challenge because the splits are so wide and they cross so many divides, economic divides, racial divides, generational divides. Joe Biden seems aware of the task in front of him, and I think he's been extremely careful to not exacerbate those divisions. He has not publicly supported the impeachment proceedings that took place last week. He has not publicly supported a conviction in the Senate, or it's not clear when the Senate will take up impeachment proceedings. Joe Biden has made it clear that he doesn't really want to throw a lot of support behind that. He wants to come in and hit the ground running in those all-important 100 days. He has a laundry list of things that he wants to achieve. He's made that clear. He wants to rebuild the economy, build back better. That has been his slogan. He needs to get a handle on COVID. He needs to repair some of the fractured international relationships that have occurred under Donald Trump. He has a long list of things that he needs to take care of, and the feeling is that he does not want to be distracted by what could well be a partisan battle over Donald Trump's conviction in the Senate. Joe Biden has really tried very, very hard not to inflame those existing tensions in the name of unity.
All right, very well said. But Laurie, I just want you to correct this for me. We're all talking about pardons here, Steve Bannon and the likes, but is it not the fact that the pardon only covers federal crimes? It can still be charged for state crimes, because when I check through the court cases Trump has got, he's got a lot of state cases that he could be indicted for. But the presidential pardon, correct me if I'm wrong, only covers federal crime, isn't it?
That's absolutely correct. And I think that may well be why Donald Trump did not preemptively pardon himself or pardon his children, because, as you rightly say, that would only apply to federal crimes. And it's not clear how legally watertight that would be anyway. But we know Donald Trump is being investigated at state level for a number of things. Letitia James, who is the attorney general for the state of New York, has been chasing Trump for a number of years now for all sorts of alleged infractions related to campaign financing, related to his taxes. You'll remember that not too many months ago that the New York Times got a hold of some of his, or seemed to get a hold of some of his tax returns. We learned that Donald Trump was paying something along the lines of $750 a year in taxes. So there is a lot that is being investigated here at state level in addition to federal level. If you're asking, will Donald Trump be spending a lot of time in a courtroom going forward, I feel quite confident that the answer to that will be yes.
Well, Laurie, President Trump is leaving office with historically low approval ratings. Some polling agencies put it at 41%. Some put it as low as 29%. But the surprise, of course, is that Melania Trump, the First Lady, is also living along with him with the lowest rating in polling history for any First Lady in the United States. Is Melania Trump a victim of her husband's politics? Because it's so unusual for a First Lady to be so lowly rated. What's your assessment of how Melania Trump, although unelected, plays in this Trump presidency?
I mean, it's a very interesting question, and I've seen similar polls, although it must be said that throughout Donald Trump's presidency, Melania has tended to outpoll her husband. But there certainly has been a lot of criticism over the past couple of weeks or so. She has a friend who has spoken extensively to the media about Melania not reining in her husband. To my mind, this seems to be a little unfair. The Americans elected Donald Trump in 2016. His wife was part of the package, and it seems a little bit, unfair to ask her to weigh in on policy in any way. She's made it very clear that she does not particularly covet the political stage. In that way, she's a very, very different First Lady than, say, Hillary Clinton or Michelle Obama, both of whom were lawyers before moving to the White House, with at least a passing interest in politics. As we learned, Hillary Clinton had more than a passing interest. She had an interest in running for office herself and did so, ran for the Senate, became Secretary of State, and then a presidential candidate. So Melania Trump comes from a different field. Her business was different. She was a model. She was not a lawyer. So it seems a little bit of a stretch to put her in the political realm. That said, Americans do have certain expectations of their First Lady. A lot has been reported over the past couple of days about the failure of the Trump family to invite the Bidens to the White House for a tour. This is not a rule. It's a convention that most presidents have observed. The First Lady brings in the incoming First Lady, gives her a tour of the building. The president does the same thing. The Trumps have declined to do this. There has been a lot made of that story. And I have to say, it surprises me a little bit of all of the things that went wrong or didn't under Donald Trump's presidency. The fact that he has lacked grace in inviting the Bidens over for tea seems to me to be really low down the list of infractions, transgressions of the Trump presidency. Yet this has been getting a lot of media attention.
Well, Laurie, I think we've run out of time, more or less. We'd like to thank you very much for your insights. Thank you very much indeed.